Hi, everybody. Good to be with you all. Let me know if you can hear me properly on the audio. Like I say, thank you for joining me. I know it's a very late one. So this is, someone mentioned it's a Nile Out stream. I can't speak. Night Owl stream. And yeah, it is. It's probably the latest I've ever started. I was very busy today, and then I went down as well to that Dollymount protest thing that happened to have a look at that, and I had a few more things to do of my own when I got back from that. So I don't know, it was a choice between don't go on at all, maybe skip tonight, or do it anyway. So thank you, Wolfhound, and everybody else for the 5x5. Yeah, there's some interesting movements today. One I should probably share, and again, I'm kind of catching up to myself here, but Garrod Murphy, Twitter, because there's something I want to show you for those who aren't on Twitter. Yeah, I just want to show you this. So again, you're bearing with me, you're forgiving me, and all of that. So I just want to get the audio to definitely work. So just this, I discovered this today. Just Syria McHugh talking about her open borders stance on a podcast. Very interesting, which is why, and just as a note, we should be listening to podcasts. I know I love the way you listen to me. That's great and everything. But for those who are into research and all of that, we should be trying to listen to what other people are listening to. You could say the opposition or cultural opposition or whatever. Try to keep an ear to the ground for that stuff, because you find stuff like this. So I shall play
No borders.
it.
I suppose it is a popularity contest, though, and it's sort of like a charming facade they have to put on to be liked.
Yeah.
Do you think that you ever had to lose a part of yourself or maybe skew one of your traits just to increase your likability factor?
I have definitely denied that my end goal is like no borders anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not all about no borders.
Yeah, so that's that. It's just interesting. We know someone like her is open borders, and there's a few more people. As I speak about Cahersiveen, I'll get onto it, or Cahersiveen, however you say it. If you're from Cahersiveen and you're wondering what is this guy talking about, if you watch this at a later date, why is he rambling about random things? I will talk about Cahersiveen in a while, but the way I do this show is just to kind of rant on for a while as well, maybe to start with. So it just reminds me of so many of these other politicians, and there's loads of them. Politicians, aspiring politicians, public figures. They will kind of be pretty radical in their views, but they won't say straight out, "Yeah, I'm open borders," and yeah, I'd lie about it. You don't hear them say that, but of course, when we listen to someone like Saoirse here, it kind of gives you the impression that they totally speak like this to each other all the time. This is the way it is, right? And they go back. Now, I'm not speaking for Saoirse here. This is my impression of people like that in general. They go back to their kind of, as Cody put it, I think it was on Dord Fena, when I was on their show. He called them the Smithfield left, the NCAD left, I might call them, or Smithfield left is very good, but they speak to each other and they're like, oh, totally this, that, and the other. I'm totally for open borders and for like Green New Deal, all of that, right? But when they speak about, for someone like Saoirse, who would be running in Mayo quite frequently, and I say someone like Saoirse. I'm not speaking about Saoirse directly here. People like Smithfield lefties like them, who are rooted in the countryside, or rooted in even working class communities in Dublin or the other cities, Cork, etc. They'll be like, oh, you have to, when you're talking to them, and what they mean is people, just ordinary people at the door, so you have to say, I'm totally not for open borders. I mean, is it that much of a hard thing to just say that's what I'm for? They're completely radical. It's just I can't pronounce that name, Oscuelga. I just can't. Someone says, can we get you to do an American accent, Gerard? I'll be honest, I'm going to go through the Cahersiveen stuff in a second, but I would love to just do this nonsense all night, as in this kind of stuff. I genuinely would. Do an American accent. Well, there are many different American accents. There's the hillbilly one, the New York one, the whatever, and the answer is no. So somebody else, John here says, Garrow debate Syria. Again, I can't just ring her up, but I get the impression that she is keenly aware of, maybe my work, maybe some of my contemporaries' work anyway, at some level, whether it's like very familiar or vaguely familiar. I've heard some of her kind of interviews and what she's speaking, and she talks about how people in ACL were just suddenly, this is very funny. I'll have to put this clip up maybe tomorrow. She talks about people in ACL recently, or in her constituency at some point, who were telling her about like the elite media and I don't know, was it replacement, population replacement, or this, that, and the other, elite media, NGOs. I forget how she phrased it, but people were in what she saw as just livestock people, right? From her point of view, these kind of proles, these, Johns and Marys, were suddenly coming at her with this language, and she knows that, they've been listening to someone other than the Irish Times and RTE, clearly. And is clearly bothered about it. So I find that quite funny. And when she was asked, it's in the same interview of that clip, she's asked, it's something like, who are they? And it's like, kind of like the people you hear before you join the National Party or something like that. She had this phrase for them, but wouldn't name either whether it's me or whether it's some of the others by name, or, because what they want, I think, is for us to be seen as the Father Ted thing, down with this sort of thing. And again, no offense to Catholics here, or devout Catholics or anything like that, but the rosary beads in your face, the kind of easily, you know what I'm saying, that type of thing that can easily be satired in ironic Ireland, and whereas they look at people like Rowan, people like myself, people like Keith Woods, Dave Cullen, blah blah blah, and I daren't even put myself in their esteemed company, but you get my point. People like that aren't so easily piss-takeable. I think what she wants is some of the conservatives, the Iona kind of people, again, no disrespect to them, the Iona people, young Fine Gael, etc., etc. They're like, I'll debate that all day long, but I guarantee you she wouldn't. And it sounds like an arrogant kind of catty thing to say, but she wouldn't. Like, I sit down for an hour and a half and just talk about open borders, immigration, stuff like that. The whole thing. Let's just talk about that. There is absolutely no way that would happen. And I don't get it, because it's funny as well with, this is turning into a Saoirse McHugh critique, but as well in one or two of the interviews of hers I was listening to, she keeps talking to like her Smithfield left buddies about how the media are conspiring and bought out, or the media are, it's hard to get around the media and stuff. And then I just looked up Saoirse McHugh and then went into the news section on Google, and I went down the list, and it was all these puff pieces like Saoirse McHugh thinks this. I'll actually do it now, just for now. Bear with me, because this. I'll just show, or what am I trying to say? I'll show you. So I just went into like news here, and we have just top one isn't like Saoirse McHugh slated for this or that. It's not a mix of criticism and everything else, or articles about her. They're like puff pieces. They're like uncritical platforms is what I call them. Just like a stage. Like, here, say what you like. We're damned if we do, damned if we won't. And this nice picture of Saoirse McHugh there in her scarf. Isn't she lovely altogether, right? And then we have, but where else does she come up? Saoirse McHugh selling her green vision to rural Ireland. Again, how puff is that? I don't care who did what in the Civil War. Saoirse McHugh. Again, it's just straight up quote and a kind of a piece. The journal, Saoirse McHugh, planting trees is one area we can't. This is just like a blog post, right? That's a funny one. I don't know. I don't know what that one is saying. That's Wexford people anyway. We're talking about national media. But you get my point there. You know, it's just pretty hilarious to have someone say that. Like, I actually, if you asked me, like, out of thin air, if you said name someone who just gets a free pass, just gets given endless platforms by the Irish mainstream media, if I had to pull 2 or 3 names out of a hat, or out of off the top of my head, I'd say there's high likelihood she would be possibly the first name, I would say. Trying to think of who else. Maybe Leo Varadkar. Maybe I don't know. You get what I'm talking about. So I want to have a look at the chat, see if you're giving out to me and all that. Gary, get on with it. You know, yeah. Okay. Oh, Paul O'Neill says he's back. Talking to me earlier. Yeah, we met at what's it called? Dollymount Strand. That was actually very nice weather. I won't say much about the politics of it, you know, because I agree with some of it, I disagree with the rest of it, type of thing. But the weather was nice, and it's a lovely place. Is Dollymount Strand? There's 112 of you watching, and I am still just rambling, so I'm I don't know. Captive audience, maybe. Harry Mary says, Garrod, stop giving her a platform. I mean, yeah, I'm giving her a platform, but it's a critical one, and you know, I don't think it's quite what you think it is. But someone else says, I think your video is being suppressed. Oh, but someone else mentioned I put sources all over the description. Yeah, that's just basically every source I had open, every tab I had open, I just included it for the copyright merchants or whatever, just so they can have something there to see, you know. There was one other thing I want to show you, actually. I have to. It's not that I want to, it's that I have to. So if I go, I'm signed out of my Twitter here, but if I go in, I could still find it. This is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. This is on, so I haven't got this one linked actually, but it's on the Patriot Gale, at Gale Patriot. And I don't know, this person says, I'm impressed. RT are so based. I don't know, did they make it? Did someone else make it? I think that might be the joke, etc. Either way, this is where I found it, and have a look. It's so good. I know, I'm just going to get a big screen up here for use. Nope, that didn't do it. This does though. It's very loud in my ears here. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Again, why is it still playing? Okay. So good. It's such a simple thing. I mean, all respect to Joseph Gale there. Just it's so, and I admire it. The fact that it completely resembles regime condescending kind of graphics, you know, like this is Conor and whatever, Owen and Maura, Owen and whatever their names are. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. I think but yet, even I respond to it because it's that kind of, and everybody I think would, because as much as we resent regime PR, there is a kind of an element of legitimacy it has by virtue of its power and its prevalence or something like that. So when you just see that style, people can absorb it, and it's such a good message. I mean, it's the kind of message where it's like, people sometimes give out that there's a bit of radicalism on this side and people can be a bit rough and ready and all that. For all the kind of for all the rough edges of, let's say, nationalist dissident right politics, the rough edges, if you're a normal person watching this who's not so into it and you think it's got rough edges, the thing to remember is that, like, everything has its rough edges. At the core of it is ultimately the message in that video. It's such a simple thing as that, which I'm telling you, no professional working or living in, I think it's Dublin in this example, Irish, like what are they? Connor, sorry about this. Owen and Sarah, classic Owen and Sarah, classic Irish millennial couple. There's no Owen and Sarah living and working in Dublin who would not watch that and go, I relate to that more than anything I've seen in a long time. As in it, and it would be kind of jarring, the fact that nobody ever says this, so it's a powerful thing, very, very subversive. And I expect, I am speaking to Joseph Gale, but anybody else who has skills and talents like these, I do wish you would do as much of this as possible. People are saying the stream is frozen. I can see it's frozen there, yeah. So I don't know, is there anything I can do about that? I think I'm back. Let me know if I'm back. I know I was gone for a sec there. It was buffering. Just let me know straight away when you see it back, because I think it is. Yeah, that was incredible. What else was there today? Oh, I'm just gonna lads, I don't know if I end up not talking about Cahersiveen, because I've done this a few times already. It's just, it is late. I might or I might not. It depends how much more I have to say in general on random news, because I'm kind of enjoying just shooting the breeze here a little bit. I'll be honest with you. So if you came here with like with high hopes, or you're going to have your feelings hurt, let me know. But you get what I mean. I'd just like to kind of improvise here for a while. Okay, so it is okay now, you're telling me. And anyway, Dave Cullen has had his video with, and again, some of this stuff isn't in the description. I didn't plan it, but you can find it. Look, the internet is I'm sure Dave won't be reporting me for copyright. I'm not going to play his stuff anyway. But everybody's saying I'm back. Okay, good. But he put up a video with Dolores Cahill, which I'm probably going to watch after this if I'm not on too long on BitChute. I spoke to Dolores before. She is a monstrously smart woman, like extremely intelligent. Some people, she has all the credentials to show for it, right? Just look her up. That's all you need to do. You can see big long list, big long resume of achievements and expert status or whatever, right? But putting that aside, I've met her, spoken to her, on and off camera, and she's just ferociously intelligent and sharp, and a very nice person as well. No, I don't mean to kiss up here, but she is. Some people stand out, and she stands out. And like I said, the main thing is she's a very intelligent person. Very, how would I say? I don't know. She's not wild. She's not crazy. She doesn't have crazy theories or any of that stuff, right? She's pretty straightforward. Now, that said, I haven't watched the interview with her and Dave, but it blew up. It got like 400,000 viewers, 400,000 or 500,000. I mean, think about that. Just think about that. It says it's constantly buffering. I don't know what to do, lads. It's buffering. I might just have to give it up here. Buffering, not buffering. Okay, so I'm back now. Is it going? It's going a lot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's not just you it's freezing for, it's me as well. Yeah, I don't know, should I wait? I can wait. I can wait. I'm just going to keep talking. So anyway, it got 4 or 5,000 views, something massive like that. Just think about that. It's 500,000 people. That's a lot. And it was uploaded a week ago or something. I think it's so wrong. Like, and Dave has put up more videos on how a journalist, it was actually a journalist, actually boasted about having reported the video or flagged it to YouTube. Again, they're not saying any slurs. They're not talking about anything even about gender or nationality or anything like that. And as far as I'm aware, again, I haven't seen it. They were just speaking about the virus. And, you know, the issue, as far as I can tell, is that like some journalisty people and World Health Organization people are like, oh, you're saying hydroxychloroquine has been demonstrated in these studies to be useful, but actually the WHO say it's not, and therefore that's wrong speech, and it can't be left up or something like that. And it's just, I've said this for a long time. If you think that when people say, oh, the classic free speech argument, like where, oh, it starts with them and then it moves to the others, I do think that's a bit of a cringy argument. Sometimes there's something a bit cringy about it. It's like, why not just stand up for the thing that's being censored instead of just appealing to what the other things that'll be censored are? Have the balls to defend the difficult thing. I often say that, but that free speech argument is true, is that even if it's on something you agree with is bad, it genuinely will move. And I'm not saying that because Voltaire told me or some quote by some famous historical figure. I'm saying it because I recognize it. I see it happening in what I look at. It starts as one thing or whatever, but I said a while back that it won't be long before populist left positions somehow, I'm talking somehow, like in a way that requires Rubik's Cube, like 5D brain type of thing to do, which is like something that's populist left suddenly becomes kind of racist, right? And I say racist in a kind of a broad sense, like it might not have anything to do with race or whatever, but insofar as the word race carries this meaning of outside, must be banned, is not allowed, is unconventional, is whatever, is haram, I can't think of a better word, insofar as that meaning of the word racist, as opposed to the literal thing, the feeling or the weight of the word racist and the implications of it, not the actual definition. So suddenly something that's populist left kind of becomes almost racist. Suddenly someone who says, hey, I don't want to give my kids this or that vaccine. I'm not going to take the vaccine for COVID, whatever, right? These are trigger words for the algorithm as I speak. But again, there was a time when that was a position where someone says too late for me. That's no problem. Good night. Take it easy. But there was a time when having an being against this or that vaccination was something that was either a position you supported, a position you were against, a position you thought maybe was a bit kooky. But now it's seen as just like, it's not allowed. It's getting banned. It's crazy. Like, as in there's a virus going around the place, and science is not done by one global organization. There are papers suggesting this, papers suggesting that, and they could both actually be somewhat true in a way. Where in these 10 studies it demonstrated that, but then there were questions as to the efficacy, and then this, and then that. It's always in flow. It's fluid. And science is always being proven wrong and right and everything. It's insane that YouTube get to say, basically, because the World Health Organization, who a couple of months ago were saying COVID-19 couldn't be passed by human to human transmission because the Chinese told them. They were saying, oh, masks are not effective, don't go near masks. But suddenly they are, and it chops and changes. It's a global political organization, right? With some health experts and all that, but they have to say, but the real thing is that all different scientists have different things to say on things. And it's just insane to me. Like, again, it shows how far we've come. And it genuinely is a bit scary that you're going to have that kind of YouTube where, and here's the thing, I was a bit of a skeptic on this kind of COVID conspiracy stuff, let's say, right? I was saying, oh, you know, I've no time for that or whatever. But I sure as hell am kind of like, let's say Dave, takes a more skeptical position than I do. So let's say to start out with, I'm like, okay, I don't have endless attention. I can't focus on COVID every day and make arguments. I'm just going to tune out for a while. I'm choosing to just kind of leave the field for a while, right? With the position I have, which is, let's say, someone like Dave, a different stance to Dave. But I'm like, I sure as hell want the Daves of the world out there, because, you know, he might spend 2 weeks thinking about this, put together videos, and then I watch them and go, holy shit, I was very wrong. Okay, I now change my mind, which I am doing largely about a lot of this lockdown stuff. I think that maybe the lockdown has had its time, but it's like, I definitely don't want a situation where these, you know, you can't have this now. Like, as in, how are people meant to know? How are people? It is scary. It is the centralizing of a one world global opinion. Like, it literally is, via the WHO or however YouTube justifies its what is right, what is wrong, what is a dangerous opinion. From, like, you know, someone like Dolores Cahill, who is dripping in credentials, right? I think this is a real inflection point, actually, them taking down Dave's video. Again, Dave, the consummate professional, Dolores, the same in her field, and they had a conversation, some of which, you know, it's not the complete mainstream. And, you know, it's just, I don't know, I'm kind of stuck for words on that. It is a scary thing. Like, it should. And I learned today that YouTube is the world's second largest search engine, and followed by Google, number one, and the latter owns the former, right? So they are the top two search engines in the world are owned by one big massive company. Like, that can't be allowed, to me, that they have this kind of, what would you call it? What's the word? It's not obscure, arbitrary. They have this arbitrary, and it's actually not arbitrary. Would suggest that there's no logic to it. The logic is, sorry, you're going to think I'm a tinfoil hatter here, but the logic is, the only logic I can see as to what YouTube decide is right and wrong is what literally institutions that represent what you would literally call global government say. So what the WHO says is, if you say anything against what the WHO say, you're banned off YouTube. Again, this isn't about tinfoil hat versus people who completely believe in it, and it's not even about it. It's insane. Again, it's like I definitely took, and to some extent I might still, for various reasons, it's complicated, take a divergent stance to someone like Dave and maybe Rowan and John Waters, people like that, right? But I, for the very reason that I have a different stance, I'm like, I need them to be there, because I you know, I actually rely on them, and so does everybody else. You rely on them to say, okay, well, I'm going to take a different position to you, kind of, just for various reasons. But I want you there, because once your case gets to a point where it's so overwhelming or so strong or whatever, there's a point where I would have to just tip my hat and say whatever. So in the event that I'm right, it doesn't matter. But in the event that I'm wrong, I want someone to be there to force me to tip my hat to it and say, okay, it has to be there. I don't know. It's classic gay free speech arguments, but, you know, it is what it is. Lads, I'm telling you, I have a lot of stuff here on Cahersiveen, like a lot, and it's all, I mean, I could just get into it. Okay, one thing I could, there was a really good article here. I'm going to get onto it. Okay, I'm going to do it. So it's by, what's his name? Michael Clifford, and I'm going to credit this because it is a very good article, actually. I don't know what kind of guy this fella is, but it's a great article. I'm speaking about Cahersiveen right now. So yeah, I don't know how much of this I should just read verbatim. I'll try not to do that. Let's skip down a bit. He goes through the business dealings. Okay, so I'm not taking the whole article here. I am just taking a few passages, okay? And the link is in the description. Okay, so okay, it's bought by Cullum Wu, right? This is a while back. Again, this is very loose. I'm no expert right now. I'm just trying to bring you up to speed. It's brought by Cullum Wu a few years ago. Now, this guy, Cullum Wu, I'll have to find him. Now, I've heard of Gone Beans, but this, I mean, like, broke Gone Beans, woke Chom Beans. And we have here Cullum Wu. And I just generally looked him up. What's someone in the chat tell me how you search an article? Control something, because I need to search his name. Because he's in this one. This is very unprofessional of me. So I'll do a different article in the meantime. Yeah, someone let me know that. There's more on him. Anyway, the point on him is that he's when I say Chombine, I mean it. It's like, you know, he's got his, you just look the guy up and he's in this kind of development and that development, and the one here is a 5.8 million redevelopment of the blighted complex, the Halliday Mills. There was another one. I'll just give you the long story short, which is like, there's one which is like a homeless shelter in Dublin, you know, which is another kind of industry, government industry type of thing. Let's say Control F. Cullum Wu. Yeah, Abbey Celtic Cafe sought planning permission for a Dublin hostel. Was there any more on? No, there wasn't on him. I mean, yeah. Control F. Cullum Wu. The site was sold to Celtic Social Housing Development Limited in 2016 after Coalport Building Company went into receivership. The company, which has been set up in 2016 with Cullum Wu as director. I think you get the point. That's the kind of guy you're talking about. A Gombeen, a Chombeen. And just as a side note, I'm really sick of this because I'm sick of capitalism, basically. And I saw Keith Woods was in the chat there. I'm not trying to simp for Keith here, right? Because it's not, you know, Keith's got a major anti-capitalist critique, but my feeling on it is like capitalism is one thing, and capitalism is one thing, socialism, blah, blah, blah. These are all ideologies, right? I'm not very educated on these things. But one thing I do know is that, like, a guy who sets up a company who makes products that are very sought after, people love them, and he scales up a little bit and he does well, right? He's a millionaire. And he just came up with a good idea. He worked hard, whatever. To me, that's kind of okay. That's fine. But this whole idea that you just kind of have money and you are constantly buying up all these properties and gaining shareholder value on them, and they're all, especially with these property asylum things and people like Cullum Wu, this isn't just property developments either. It's stuff linked to government contracts and all of that, right? I don't see under communism, capitalism, syndicalism, autarky, what else is there? The fourth position, whatever policies you want, right? I don't know. I don't understand all of those things. What I do know is it's insane that that's allowed, that these people are allowed to grow rich on this stuff. So anyway, as we're looking through this, which is an excellent article from here from Irish Times, going through the kind of weird history, I saw this in Ruski as well, and some of the other towns. Every time you look into one of these centers, the story is so corrupt and Gombini seeming, and this is no different. And your man puts the author of this article puts it into very good detail. So starts out with Cullum Wu, he buys it. Then in 2019, hotelier Jack Kirk took out a lease on it. Then he created a company, Skellig Hotel Experience, to hold the lease and brought on board 2 shareholders, Michael Healy-Rae and solicitor Gus Cullen. Now, again, the idea that you see a politician, I don't care if they say, oh, I was just investing in the community. Bullshit, right? If you invest, no. The idea that you're a politician, put it this way. If I went around Kerry, drove around in my car, stopped at a random house, went in and knocked and said, "Hi, there's this development going on. I just want to ask you, have you got any involvement in it? Whether it's like a big involvement or a small involvement or a temporary involvement or something like that. Have you got any involvement in shareholding or companies or any of that stuff?" Right? I could almost, bet my life on it that person would say, "No, I've no involvement in that, nor do I have involvement really in anything." You know what I mean? I just go, I either go to work and I get my wages, or I get the dole, or I get a pension, or this or that, right? Most people just have an income. How well that the Michael Healy-Rae just happens to be, involved in this. And the thing also that bothers me is that he's a TD, and I don't know what they get paid. They get paid a nice old bit, right? More than the average person, plus expenses and all of that. By all accounts, relative to many other people, most other people, you could call him rich. Now, my thing is, like, if you're rich, then why are you dabbling in all this shit? It should just be, again, it's communism, capitalism, all this stuff. I don't know about all that, but I do feel like you just shouldn't be allowed. Morally speaking, you shouldn't do it. You should just say, I have my money. I have more money than I need. I can pay for a house and my kids, and and I can get expenses and all of that. I'm doing okay, and I'm a politician. I was elected. It's better than working in a chipper or something, right? I've already got what you would call a good job with good status, good pay, and I'm blessed. It just boils my blood to see him involved, and he could have some excuse. I was just investing in my community. It's like, no, the government should invest in the community if that's going to be the case. If there's going to be spare money knocking around, it should be the state or the local council or someone investing the money directly. It doesn't need to be for you. And also, if you're investing it, would you take a shareholder return on that money when it comes back to you? Obviously, you would. So if it's there for you for profit, then it's not some noble deed. It's just, this is rife with what would drive even the most ardent capitalist to become a fist waving Lenin figure, right? It genuinely would, because you just go, these people are all scum to me, in my humble opinion. Then sometime in early 2019, another businessman, Paul Collins, expressed an interest in the hotel. Mr. Collins has a number of ventures, including centres in Ballinamore and Dublin city centre. So he's got a few going on. He's racking up a few of them, right? The Irish Examiner understands that a verbal agreement to sell the Skellig hotel experience, which included the lease, sorry, I'm reading that wrong. The Examiner understands that a verbal agreement to sell the hotel, which included the lease to Mr. Collins, was agreed by the summer of 2019. Now, what's funny is that in this situation, because there was a verbal agreement done, they start making further deals on it while they haven't even signed it over. Mr. Collins offered the Skellig Star Hotel, even though he didn't own it or hold the lease. All 3 shareholders in the... that's insane. He offered it even though he didn't hold the lease. And then all 3 shareholders told the Irish Examiner they knew nothing of this move. I didn't know anything. And all these different shareholders, imagine them all, rubbing their greasy hands together inside in, pubs or on the phone or stroking their beards, kind of and then they go out, they go out to the community and they're all full of accent and they're all outside mass shaking the hands, but then they have these little meetings about the shares and the this and the that. It's unreal. Anybody who's Fed posting in the chat there, I'm just gonna give Keith, because he pointed it out there, mod status. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, writing in caps pisses me off and could earn you a ban, but that's kind of half a joke. Seriously, don't Fed post. It's wrong. It's not good. So instant ban if anyone there is a mod for a person doing that. On September 2019, an official from the Department of Justice visited the hotel. See, this is where it happens. I was in Ruski. I was there twice. One time where there was a meeting. These 2 visits I made were separated by 6-8 months maybe apart. The first one, there was a big meeting in Ruski in the community center. Now I went in there and I had to. Now I'm not a broad-backed guy here, right? But I had to suck it in to fit in the room. Like, I mean, people were in each other's faces, packed in like sardines to this massive community hall. Every soul in Ruski was there, and a heated atmosphere. People are really upset about it. And then all of these guys were there. These people in suits, these lawyers, these thises and that's, and political representatives, so-called, are all there, and they're all going. We know there have been conspiracy theories that this is going to be turned into an asylum center. Well, we can tell you that not only is it not happening, but those conspiracy theories are very silly and very irresponsible, right? So calm down. Don't be running away wild with the last. Hello. I'm apparently here, and my stream keeps cutting out. So it was doing it a while ago. I lost about 30 of you. I don't know if this keeps happening. I don't want to do it to you. I don't want you watching a product here that is subpar. And now there's some kind of rubbish lorry doing its thing. Men doing their work. Can't complain about that, you know. So I am back. I don't know how you feel. I can leave it off. I can stop right now. Yeah, because yeah. So I know I'm back now. I'm just going to keep going. So I'll at least finish this article. Galileo Irish nationalism said keep her lit. I will. So basically what happens here, and Morris from Cahersiveen told me as much. It was interesting that because I pick up on these things straight away, not to blow my own trumpet, because I've been doing this a while. Where I was saying, what happened with the hotel? Was the hotel up and running? And he was like, yeah, it was up until like last December or something like that. And then I was like, okay, so it was running until then, and then it just shut down, and now it's an asylum center. He was like, well, yeah, it was running up until December or January or whatever it was, and then the boiler broke, and they had to shut the place down. And I'm like, you know, come on, you know, like I don't know what happened with the boiler, but come on, this stuff, it's the shadiest thing ever. All of this stuff. So the boiler broke in December, something like that. But on September 25th, 2019, an official from the Department of Justice visited the hotel in response to a question. So basically, they're scoping the place out from then on, right? And you can assume they had been in touch with the lads a few months before, privately, right? Excuse me. The official, and again, the political connection here is so bad. Like the Healy Rays will go. I don't know anything about that, but the fact that like the hotel was sitting there kind of on ice for a while, with seemingly with foreknowledge that it could be used for something more lucrative, something that the government knew you were in the government, yeah, so it's just kind of mad. So the official did visit, but did not conduct anything that could be called an inspection. Again, credit to this journalist, and I am actually going to do it now, because it's a fantastic article. I rarely do this. I'm not a fan of the Examiner, but that deserves a click. So, and then there's another individual, JJ Harrington. Now, that sounds like a Gambine name to me, but what do I know? Was reported to be a frequent presence at the hotel at the time. He's in the construction business and a close associate of Mr. Healy Ray. Interesting. He was subsequently employed by Mr. Collins to carry out work in what is now the DP Centre. I mean, it just goes on and on. I've told you about the boiler. Morris mentioned it to me, but yeah, and December 28th, the boiler blew. There was no central heating, so they had to kind of shut the place down and all of that. So that's basically it. Just, all of this stuff, like the deal isn't even done. It's all verbal agreements. There's a politician involved. There's about 10 different Gambines scrambling for it, all kind of doing deals. And then it opens up. And again, just the betrayal. Tommy Murphy is up at 5:20. You should have been in bed 2 hours ago, my man. But yeah, so that's them. And there's just loads more. I've told you about Cullum Wu as well. But there's loads to this. At the moment, we have what would you call them? I sometimes call them the Protestants, but I don't know if all these people are Protestant. Nothing against Protestants per se, but let's just say they have Protestant vibes, right? Rural Irish Protestant vibes. These tabs are a bit disorganized. People are doing this, right? And the tweets they're doing are getting no attention. Now, I'm a good man I'm not going to say the word propaganda. Because propaganda is a loaded word, and I don't engage in such a loaded term. I would never engage in anything like that. Information and campaigning and awareness raising, right? I'm good at doing that stuff. And from one to another, these people are trying to attempt it with these signs. June O'Sullivan seems to be a big vector for it. She's doing a lot of it, probably a local in the area, I think she's a writer in the rural Ireland, like I said. Voices from the Direct Provision Centre. So they're taking quotes, apparently, from people in the Direct Provision Centre and writing them on placards and then looking kind of somberly at the camera. Just this kind of stuff. Another one here. That's something else. Here's someone from New York. I'm so scared in this place. Scared of what? Scared of COVID-19, I suppose. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe you should just go back to Georgia, right? I'm sure the rates are very low there. Go back to Albania. It was your own mistake. And if any of you are actually asylum seekers, I don't know. That's another story. But that's a big if. Here's another one. I'm not even going to read these. And we've got a Bazzer here, shaved head. It is what it is. Someone says it's only 10 deaths in Georgia. Well, there you go. Another one. So these kind of people. There's one other little thing I just wanted to. I'm just flying through. I'll actually make that bigger as well. Just so you can see it more. I'm just going to fly through random tabs that caught my attention because that's how I've organized this. So a thing here I wanted to pick up on. Yeah, it's nope, that's not it. There's one I was looking at there. Is it that? No. Bear with me, lads. Cristoro, whatever, local newspaper columnist says asylum seekers that worked prior to the pandemic have been put back on their measly €38.80 weekly. Now, again, there are Irish people who are working who have high expenses, high taxes, and they don't get much in return. And the two of them are working sometimes, and they might not have, because of mortgage repayments, to usurers and to Gombeans and to everybody else, right? Who genuinely don't have €38 pocket money at the end of the week. They pay the bills, they pay this, they pay that, they pay the other. They don't. They would say, I don't. We couldn't go to the cinema if we wanted to. We couldn't get a bottle of wine. We don't have it, right? So again, I'm not taking pleasure in anybody suffering, but it's like there's a lot of Irish people out there and they don't have journalists simping for them like this. These guys have everything taken care of. There's a lot of people in Ireland who think, if I get it, I'm not supposed to curse on the show anymore. I've agreed to people, but a lot of Irish people lay awake at night thinking, if I get a toothache, I am effed. I am screwed. Because I just can't afford it. I don't know what I will do if I get some kind. I need to have a root canal or something. I don't know what I'm going to do. These guys don't have to worry about that. They can just get their dental treatment done, right? And that's a journalist, local journalist. It's like, nice opinion you got there, brah. And this is another interesting one as well. Then this woman came out, because they always find one of these. Nice. This is from Radio Kerry. Radio Kerry, which is actually owns 11%, I think, of radio share in Ireland, because they've bought up Shannonside and they've bought up one or two others. So previously, you would have local media were actually pretty honest and truthful. Like, you had a couple in Shannonside for a while. They were genuinely a good resource. They for whatever reason, they weren't plugged into like the hive brain of Dublin media. And they would actually tell, they weren't right wing or nationalist or any of that. They would just literally tell the story like you imagine journalists would. Like, they'd just say what happened, what's going on. And now all of this local media is being kind of conglomeratized, if that's a word, under actually Radio Kerry. So I don't trust them at all. And as you can see here, niece of Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty says he'd have stood up for the Georgian and Albanian men who were being looked after basically like children. In every way. And what's her name? Pearl Deneen. Again, it's always a pearl, it's always a poppy, it's always a, penny, it's always it's always one of these. I don't know, silk. Maybe that's a bit too far out, but it's always one of these names, right? I'm telling you, I'm trying to think of other name archetypes. There's loads. Actually, they'll probably pop up for themselves. But Pearl Deneen. And then I looked into this Hugh O'Flaherty guy. Do I have it here? Sure, I did. On a wiki page. Nope. I could just. Oh, I do. So Hugh O'Flaherty, I looked him up. Hugh O'Flaherty, Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, during World War II, he Irish fella from Kerry, I think, was in the Vatican or / Italy during World War II, and after the Allies rolled over the Italians and the Germans seized control, then took the reins in Italy. They were apparently looking for Jews or something. And he was protecting them and maybe other people, anyone who Nazis were supposedly have been looking for, right? Now, so he sheltered them and all this kind of stuff. So he's a hero. He's basically like a Schindler's List of the Vatican type of thing, right? And this media, so again, they're applying this anti-Nazi thing, basically to like not want these people in your town is to be a Nazi. Being a Nazi used to be blitzkrieging foreign towns or whatever, apparently. you could argue about Danzig, but you get my point. The Operation Barbarossa and everything else, it used to be blitzkrieging and war and bombs and whatever. Now it's like just saying, I don't want like 150 random people from Albania in my town. I don't know them. Now that's Nazism. And that's what they're effectively saying. Like they're saying, if he was here now, he would protect these asylum seekers. It's just such bullshit and of course they'll always find one of these stories to shite out there. I don't count that as a swear word, so I get away with that one. But my overall thought, I've spoken about this loads, but when I see a story like this, like not just this particular story, but all of this stuff to do with Cahersiveen, all of this propaganda from these guys with their signs these guys and Father Hugh O'Flaherty, from the Nazis and blah, blah, blah. All of this stuff is being poured on top of them. And my heart goes out to poor old people from Cahersiveen who privately are like, I don't want this at all. And they're seeing this massive, like napalm bombing of shite just come down on top of them from like journalists. There's more here I'll have a look at. So like we have, let's go through some of it. So, and then they're left with like they're doing the same thing as Uachtar did. Like, I don't want to blame them much. They're in a position. It's easy for us to talk, but Cahersiveen says yes to asylum seekers, no to direct provision, against inhumane direct provision centers. It seems to be that's what they're doing, right? But that's obviously not the real take. Then you have all these articles, all these journalists. There's this one here, like I can't say her name, M. Night Shyamalan. I'm just going to call her. She's writing loads of pieces for Hot Press. She seems to be like the kind of a Cahersiveen on the Cahersiveen beat. She seems to be the main kind of person who's dedicated herself and dove into the story and just kind of whatever. Now she's not anywhere near objective. She's a whatever. But this M. Night Shyamalan, she may not be quite as honest as I think maybe she could be. I know she's coming from a replaceist point of view and is probably leaving things out. But one thing I will say is she probably knows it, understands what's going on there. She's probably got her head buried in the story constantly, basically, and all constantly following up. So there's her, there's and why is this one making me laugh? This is something I discovered that was kind of funny, actually. It was, oh no, it's a story here that matters. I need to figure this one out with you. It was about a local, the whole thing where I joke about locals. Yeah, okay, so here's a funny one, right? The Skellig Star they're talking about Cahersiveen United, which is Cahersiveen People Against Direct Provision. And you look through this and the person that gets mentioned, the quote. So it's a classic, shit piece on the situation, explaining it to you from a journalist. They quote the local subverter, a banner stuck to the bush, blah, blah, blah. And the person's name is Lucy Kenihan Gavin. Right? Again, to the names. Like if you think I make this stuff up, where I'm just saying they all have funny names, funny Protestant-y kind of names, or something strange anyway, something a bit outsidey about them, and a bit weird, and a bit posh, and a bit artsy, and a bit whatever. So this name. If you think I'm making that up, why is it that every time I come across one, it is one of them, right? I hope you agree with me. But Lucy, Henne, blah blah blah. It says that she's a local now. I can't find the bit. Again, because I'm live, I'm just going to get kind of lost on this. It's either in this one or another one, right? Where it's just described as local. I can't find it. Oh, yeah. There we go. It's right there. A visual artist and a Cahersiveen local, right? Now, again, before anyone does the whole defamation thing or whatever, I'm not saying anything I can't know for sure. But what I will say is what I see, which is this. I just looked up Lucy Kenihan Gavin or whatever it is, right? And it's down here somewhere. It's in this Echo Live, Cork Echo, I think it is. It's this blah blah blah. And then we go down to Lucy. Where is she? Where are you? And now maybe there's loads of Lucy Kenahan Gavins. I don't know. So again, I can't say something I don't know, but you tell me how many Lucy Kenahan Gavins there are. I don't know. A 60-year-old Cork artist whose work is such an accurate representation of her life, blah, blah, blah. 60-year-old Cork artist, and this article here came out in April 2019, so like a year ago. Now, so when we're talking locals, like when I said to Morris when I interviewed him about Cahersiveen, he is a Cahersiveen local. It was so funny. I said, sometimes the people in these groups aren't the most local, which is me kind of couching it, being kind of like coy. And then equally coy, he said, I'd say you'd probably be 100% right there. It was such a funny little exchange. But there's your local. And look at this, Elaine Chapman. I mean, no comment. And then I'm just taking random tweets and bits and stuff here, right? Just consider it a pastiche. So blah, blah, blah are now saying asylum seekers who want to be referred to City West Social Distancing Centre can do so simply by requesting referral. From the sublime to the ridiculous. They're saying it's ridiculous that if asylum seekers in Cahersiveen are afraid of social COVID, they can go to City West where there's this social distancing thing. And it's a bit paltry and whatever, but I suppose it's an option to say, listen, if you're the one who's worried about it and you're in this situation, you're the one who came here, we're giving you a second option, we're giving you options here. And it's kind of like nothing is good enough. Obviously, the whole point at the end of it for all of these journalists ultimately is to say, we want all of these people to be given a house straight away. And we want there to be no limit on the amount of people that can come here and no rigorous selection criteria or investigation really to be done. We want so open borders, homes for all. They say it themselves, the Rad Libs or whatever in Ireland. They say it themselves. It's a slogan. What is it? Open borders, homes for all, something like that, right? Again, insanity. You heard Saoirse McHugh a while ago. These people are insane, and of course they're empowered by the government. But again, I return to the point of like this poor town has all this shite, like this Graham Clifford guy. Look, check it out. Social entrepreneur. Like they have these social entrepreneurs commenting on their town and this and that. It's just it's stomach churning. Breed Smith. Oh, my earphone just gave out to me there, like exploded in my ears. Okay, but I don't really need it. Anyway, she's like, you've seen this. Have you seen the billboards outside Cahersiveen and Kerry? So it's all these billboards which are being basically drawn up by all these Protestants, right? Who are like locals, and the journalists then are retweeting it and putting it up. I've always said this about the asylum thing. For people living in these towns, it's fine for someone like me. I'm as familiar with it as these Protestants. I'm calling them Protestants loosely, right? I'm not a Protestant, right? But in terms of just that journalisty world, I would consider myself a kind of a Blade. Someone's going to laugh at me for saying this. A kind of a like Blade type figure. Blade was half vampire, so he was used to slaying, metaphorically slaying these vampires because he was kind of had a bit of it in him. I have a bit of this in me, but I'm just not one of them at all. So when I take a stance against this direct provision stuff, it's like I live and breathe this stuff. And I get it, and I'm as like, I don't want to use a word like manipulative, but I can do what you guys can do back at you, right? And I kind of enjoy it, and it's kind of my thing. But for poor old Cahersiveen people who are just doing their thing, no one in their right mind wants to have anything to do with all this stuff. They have to just watch all of this happening around them, the surrealness of it. It's like it gets turned into a zoo or something, but not even a zoo. It's like gets turned into a zoo where they're like the animals or something. It's very unfortunate. So Renew Ireland had a great tweet here as well. They said the 18th of the 1st, 2020, so the 18th of January, Department of Justice states no plans for direct provision centre in Cahersiveen. And then 2 months later, they opened the hotel again. What democracy? What free society? What respectful consent-based society? Doesn't exist. And then on the 7th of March, Italian Ryanair trainee staff land in Dublin. Report in the Italian media that 15 of them are tested positive. They're quarantined in a travel lodge near Dublin Airport where the asylum seekers are. And then those asylum seekers end up going to Cahersiveen. I mean, talk about betrayal, you know. Talk about open borders cubed, where it's like it was like the Italians were coming in when they shouldn't have been. The asylum seekers then got it off them, and then they shouldn't have been going to Cahersiveen and West Kerry. Come on. And then you end up with this like surge of cases in Cahersiveen, in Kerry, which should be peaceful. That should be the benefit of living in the beautiful countryside. Is that when something like this happens, the zombie apocalypse happens in the city, you're kind of okay. The government don't like ship it down to you on a bus. So yeah, that was a good thread from Renew actually. And again, it's linked in the description. This is funny as well. There was a fake letter issued to Cahersiveen Direct Provision Centre, supposedly blaming them that doesn't have a HSC stamp on it. So it's weird. So someone's sending random letters. By the way, I emailed someone part of this. Actually, I didn't email someone. Someone emailed me. Excuse me. Someone of this Cahersiveen Friends of emailed me. I'm not going to name them. I've forgotten this person's name anyway. They emailed me to say, it was weird because they emailed me. I had no knowledge of them before. They said something along the lines of like, I know you said in your video that people who do this are subverters, but I'm not a subverter, type of thing. Just kind of pleading to me on it kind of thing. And I was like, okay, you know, that's weird. And what it seemed like to me is that maybe a lot of people had seen the asylum industry video when it existed. And suddenly, you know, once they get that, they start pointing the finger at these subverters and identify them. And I've seen it happen before with the Leo Dohertys, with the people in Moville, everywhere. Suddenly it's like, oh, you know, don't name them. Once they get named by the town, they're so isolated. Suddenly they're reviled, they're despised. And it must be a very strange feeling for these subverters, because suddenly, out of nowhere, from the mist, everyone in town has now turned on you, and they seem to know exactly what you're doing, more than maybe even you realized yourself, because I think a lot of these subverters are subconscious. Suddenly, the town know exactly what you're at, more than they're miles ahead of you. And you're like, how the hell did this happen? So anyway, I feel like it might have been a case of that, because she emails me kind of almost pleading in a way to say, I'm not that. And I'm going, hey, I just made a video like a year ago. I'm not saying I don't even know you. What are you trying to get me to do? Like, and then I just said, hey, why don't you come on and talk to me? You can make your case. You can say I'm not that, and I can say, okay, whatever. Do you want to come on and have a reasonable conversation? And she says, I need to get permission from everybody in the center. So, and I was like, that's weird. Why? I was like, I don't want to ask you about I was like, I don't know what impression you're under. I don't care. I'm not interested in them. I'm interested in you. I want to know why you came to me asking about you being a subverter or not. So that's the question. It has nothing to do with the asylum seekers. She kind of obfuscated to say, when I said, do you want to come on? I think she obfuscated to say, oh, well, I would need the permission of everybody to talk to you, even though it's irrelevant. I just didn't even bother emailing her back. It's like, but what I have seen with this M. Night Shyamalan figure, the one writing for Hot Press, who seems to have several articles and seems to have the best kind of, seems to be getting like, for example, these letters. I had it there a second ago. This apparently fake letter. It's doesn't mean anything. It's just something stupid. I don't know. It was like that M. Night Shyamalan was one of the first people on that, and she seems to have the scoop on some of these things straight away, you know. And I don't want to be defaming people. I'm saying what I think, not what I know. You have these people like the subverter who emailed me, who can tell me I need the permission of everyone to say anything. I can't talk to you, but can liaise very easily, which is all. I've said all this in the original video of the asylum industry, but you know, they're feeding all this stuff to the journalists. All these signs, pictures of people at the window with the thing. So it creates this whole fake infrastructure of propaganda between the journalist, the subverter, and then ultimately the government as well, and the Gombeen. Like I said, you have the Gombeen, you have the government, and the NGOs, the media, and the local subverters. But that was your one who emailed me, and that's, you see this with this M. Night Shyamalan figure. I couldn't be bothered going through her articles. She's like complaining that they were given. It's so funny. They were given a bottle of water, Coke, and a few bags of twirls, like mini bite twirls. And they were complaining. They were saying, "We don't want to take this. It's like you're buying us off." So there's like some kind of escape from Alcatraz. Or it's not like that, but it's more like, I don't know what it is. It's like there's psychological warfare going on between the asylum seekers, the subverters, the Gombeans, the owners, and like this kind of war of like, we will not eat your twirls. We, on principle, we refuse to eat the twirls. We want to be given a house in Ballsbridge. And until that happens, I will not eat a single twirl. I will not drink a single sip of this Coca-Cola. It's just so silly. Like, again, there's Irish people suffering up and down this country a lot worse than this. Let's just be honest. And they didn't, fly in from a different country. They're in their own country. But yeah, this is all Year One's articles. This M. Night Shyamalan figure. There's a funny one here. This is from Shyamalan again. Cahersiveen residents write to TDs to say thanks. I mean, come on. I don't know, is there any more from her? There's a bit from her anyway. Yeah, that was basically that. Oh, here's a good picture. This is from another Irish Examiner article. I think it's Irish Examiner, yeah. Where it's just one of these pictures of this woman hanging out the window, and she says, please I'm not going to do the African accent because that would be uncouth. Please provide us, I think it's us, please provide us with one door accommodation. Usually they say own door, one door, same meaning, same difference, right? Own door accommodation means a gaff. Can someone give me own door accommodation? I have to pay for mine. I would much rather not. Would that be possible? And again, with all these things of like these, like I call them Protestants, loosely speaking, holding up their signs being like, I was forced to eat a twirl today. I don't have a hot water bottle. Or like, to be fair, they're afraid they'll get COVID and stuff, but look, it's their own problem for abusing a system that, is not meant for them. I mean, most of them are spoofers, so based on that, it's their own doing, you can say. But what was I going to say? I'm going mad. I completely lost my train of thought. I wish I had someone here who could let me know. What was I saying? I didn't actually say it was on my brain. Sorry for this, lads. I know, you're expecting better here, but oh yeah. Oh, sorry. That was my point. Is with these people holding up the signs, doing this propaganda, and these people are holding up the signs. I saw their tweets get like 1 like. Trust me, you have to have a much higher game. You have to work a lot harder, and you have to be. If you have truth on your side, it's a lot easier to get things off the ground. But to see, to watch them doing it, I'm like, that's lame. That's C-team stuff. But my point being, they're holding up the signs, and it's like, I have this problem and that problem, and we're not being given this or that. And I'm like, okay, so you're liaising. You subverter people have this magical access to all the asylum seekers. I obviously would never get. I mean, and you're telling us all the woes and the blah, 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 paper thin, transparent, weak propaganda. Can you just tell us, at the end of the quam from so-called asylum seeker, could you just put in, not their name, just put in their age, because their name would give away their details. I get all that. That's their own name. But just put in at the end, signed, age, gender, country of origin. I think that's fair enough. If you're going to show us crappy propaganda, just let us know who told you that thing. Because of course, if you knew that, it would be a lot different. It would be a lot different. It would be like, oh, I have this problem and that problem. It would be like, I don't know, I can't think of a Georgian name. Abdul, I don't know. Abdul 27, Albania. Which is deemed a safe country. In that case, you'd be like, well, just get the hell out of here. Like, just leave. Like, we'll get you on a plane and just go home. Like, I mean, if it's that bad, just, I don't know, consider going home, perhaps. But no, you don't get that. What you get is, like, when they show you that sign, what you're given is the image of a black person's back with the kind of white whip marks or like cuts. That's the classic image of the classic refugee that most probably moral people would agree, hey, if a person like that came banging on your door, it's kind of hard to say no to them. Maybe I suppose that's kind of fair enough. That's the image they're giving you. They're not giving you the image of the guy with like the like stud diamond earring, the like faux leather jacket, the like light blue jeans with rips on them, skinny, and or like a puffy jacket and a phone and a cigarette, you know, who's like my age. You know, they're withholding that image from your mind, like, which is what's really going on. I think I've exhausted all of that. We've gone through the Chombine. We've talked about M. Night Shyamalan. We've gone through the twirl controversy, the Protestants at large, and all of these various items. So yeah, it's late. I don't know. The stream kept failing. I'm a little bit disorganized. I was very late. Apologies for all that, but that's that. I'm gonna say Ihowa. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow evening. Night.